Good Saturday morning. So if you noticed, I changed my channel name to Boomer U, period, capital U. This is absolutely an honor and a tribute to Prager U, Prattle U, What's a Matter U, Trump U, DeVos U. So there's always a motive. And sometimes it's just babbling. So anyway, going to give you a little sequence of events here. This is an introduction to a computer game. Where were you in 1977? I'm pretty sure it was 77. Could have been late 70, probably the fall of 76. Winter. So, you get out of 3 months of boot camp and you get a promotion and a set of dress blues. From there you go to military radar schools and you get certificates with 600 hours and learn the odds of throwing a gigawatt pulse into the atmosphere and having it come back to you and mean something. So you've got a little bit of tube theory, electronics theory, physics, calculus, hundreds of hours of this. With mess duty, KP in between, guard duty in between. This is the days when Marines cooked for themselves. The good old days, right? So, after this, I'm now on base. We're in swamps on the East Coast. Beautiful place. And a trailer pulls in by one of our bigger buildings. And another trailer pulls in. They bolt them together and slide things out and start running cables. So, being a little electronics curious, I got invited into this van, 1977. Now, where were you? That had any type of storage you can name today. Media storage, laser discs, tapes, all put together and constructed by DARPA, built by a company. It's a multiplayer, multi-role military game. It's based on the statistics of Vietnam. Lieutenants with platoons move their platoons around based on orders, and they make moves based upon statistics, available resources, available transportation. The game had flaws. You could drive through a river with a tank. Didn't matter how deep the river was. So logistically, you didn't lose many tanks crossing rivers. So that didn't work. But one of the points was, it was at a distance gaming for battalion level tactics in jungle warfare, 1977. You've just learned how to protect with radar. What would be support assets for these games people are playing? And through this, since you've been promoted, you've got a little bit of rank, you get watch assignments. barracks duty, and your peers and friends come down in the middle of the night after waking up in sweats and share their stories of Vietnam. And your friends take you to the wards where Agent Orange survivors, waiting for their turn, lay in wards that would upset most anyone today. So that computer game was interesting. I don't know if the computer game allowed for Agent Orange other than to bomb the forests. I don't know if that computer game included bombing Laos, and China didn't care because faith. So that's a little bit of background, a little bit of what you go by. From there was a little bit of college, where all of these things tied back together again. Where when you're sitting in classrooms learning more, you realize that most of your grade school teachers were trying. But it's complicated, right? So, a little bit of background, a little bit of history. From the service, went to some schools. Because of the service background, there was more schools, more service schools in there. Over 1,000 hours of learning how some of the most sophisticated defense electronics, common electronics, future consumer electronics works. And yet through this thread has been a consistent push. This is a thread from this education was based on 1950s, 1960s materials from some of the institutions we know the acronyms for. Berkeley, UCLA, MIT, I forget the one in Chicago, but so that's pieces of how we got here. And through this thread of our knowledge, of our understanding, has been that other tide, that other ebb and flow that fights amongst itself over what books mean. This is a piece of how we got here. Long, slow plod. From that background came chemical engineering, industrial engineering, non-destructive test techniques, large data structure, small data structure, clustered instruments, clustered computers, distributed controls, layered controls, acronyms that have no place in common conversations. These are things that are out there that we know about. But somebody wants to argue the medical profession's decision on healthcare. Others want to wave miracle cures around. And there is a place for personal choice with understanding, I suppose. Wells, gone too long. Wells are deep.